Hi everybody, before we get into the podcast there, just to let you know, we are back in Cork's Opera House on August the 22nd to open the Cork Podcast Festival.
Which is an absolute honour, and myself and James are thrilled to be a part of such a great night, particularly when you've so many fantastic podcasts coming from Cork on the night and the week as well.
Yeah, no, listen, it's great to be part of the podcast scene, and we've a great guest on the night too, a friend of ours, Brezzy, a mental health advocate who's got a great story. Among other things, he's played Munster or rugby with Leinster, and he had a panic attack live on TV, and he does his own show now around his own journey, so it's going to be powerful.
Yeah, he's just going to talk about his story growing up and when it all started for him in relation to his mental health and how he came through it and what he does today around it. He does a lot of work within schools today and helps children to be able to cope much better with their own mental health, and he creates programs and stuff like that, and he does a lot of funding. So it should be a fantastic night.
Yeah, we'll have a bit of entertainment, a bit of music and a bit of a crack as well. So I hope to see you there August the 22nd. Tickets available at ticketmaster.ie or Cork Opera House box office. Thank you and enjoy the podcast. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Norries podcast. I am your host James and I'm joined as always by my good friend Timmy Long.
Hi everyone.
Roslyn O'Callaghan is our guest today. How are you, Roslyn?
I'm good, thanks. And yourselves?
Not too bad, not too bad. So you were on the telly recently with Katie Hannon.
I was on RT Up Front with Katie Hannon a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Talking about your experience of abuse in the Defence Forces.
Yes, of my rape
Yeah.
experience while I was serving overseas with the 83rd Infantry Battalion UNIFIL
Okay.
in 1998.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, bring us back to where you're from and what it was like growing up for you.
Yeah, I'm from Bandon, born in St. Finbarrs in 1977 and born and reared in Bandon in Richmond Court. Council estate, 5 of us in the family, mum and dad, and had a good childhood, yeah.
And had you got a family member in the Defence Forces?
I did. My mother's father, my grandfather, and my mum's 2 brothers, Raymond and Jimmy. Jimmy's nickname was Number 7.
Okay.
And the 3 of them served with the 11th Battalion and the 1st Field Artillery Regiment in Ballincollig.
So it must have been, for you, it must have been a dream to join the army.
I always wanted to be a soldier. I wanted to follow my grandfather's footsteps. Sure, my mother and my nan thought I was mad, but I did it.
Yeah.
And back then, for a female in the army, were there few to be seen? Or was it a period of time where there was a number of females starting to join the army?
Yeah.
Or was it just overpopulated with men at the time?
Oh, it's still overpopulated with men, but at the time, it was women were joining the army, but it wasn't kind of the done thing, But from what I know is that I joined in 1996, December 96. We were the 88th Recruit Platoon. Yeah, and there was 7 females
Joined.
in the platoon
Out of how
of
many?
30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's still a good number for the time, was it?
For the time, yeah, it
Would
was.
there be
And it
more
was,
now?
there would. But at the time, the selection process was very hard. You had to go through an interview process, then you had to go through fitness tests, and then you had your medical. And I remember the fitness test. Oh, God. Like, I can't run. I still can't run. But I passed it, and I passed the medical, and then I was one of the 7 that got into the platoon.
Must have been absolutely thrilled, I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it, this is where I wanted to go in life. That was my path. And I went in as a recruit. I did in 1998.
What was it like when you went in?
See, I was in the FCA before that, so I had an idea of how, drills and marching and uniform and dress. And
You describe a typical day for the private.
as a private.
As a recruit or as a private, like you're learning the ropes. What's a typical day for you?
In training, I suppose I'd go with recruit training. You have to get up early in the morning. You probably, you'd set your alarm for maybe 6 a.m. so that you can get your boots ready. Well, they should have been ready anyways from the night before. Your uniform has to be immaculate, ready for inspection. Your bed has to be dressed down, folded immaculately, and all yourself, your own personal hygiene has to be immaculate, and the toilets, the showers, the stairs, floors, no dust, everything had to be spotless. Yeah. And then you go out on parade, you're marched to breakfast, you get breakfast, then you come back and you get ready for inspection on the square, where they inspect your clothing, yourself and your clothing, your boots, and after that you might do a few some marching skills around the square in Collins Barracks, and after that then you go up and there'll be a room inspection. And after that then you'd have drill inspection when it comes to weapons. You're learning about the STAR and the GPMG, and and then you would have your fitness routine where you're taking on physical training, runs that would be miles.
In the army, right, you have these sergeants, these guys that are doing the drills, and they're screaming and roaring into your face. You know the way you watch it on TV. And I've often been looked at and I saying, I don't think I could actually take that. Him calling you this, that and the other, and screaming into your face and spitting and calling you. How do you deal with that? How does another human being deal with someone in their face like that?
Is it like that?
Yes. Well, back in my day it was. Not so much now, but certainly back in 1998, 99, yes it was. But you just have that mental strength where you just block it out and you just take it on the chin.
Even Hell Week, when we were watching Hell Week there a few months ago, do you see this? Someone's shouting and roaring.
Try to push your buttons like
back at the lads.
But that's what they do. Yeah.
Try to break you.
Try to break you, yeah.
And
Takes a lot of
did that
effort,
ever
though.
get you? Did it ever get you to a stage that you said, I can't do this more?
No, not that way. I suppose I was on a training course. It's called a non-commissioned officers course, and in 2002, and it's for promotion. So you'd be promoted corporate, but the course is 6 months long, and it's intense and it's physical and it's mentally draining. Yeah, and I remember I lost so much weight. I went down to 7 stone. Yeah, but we were on a tactical exercise at the time up in Kilworth, and the pressure was on us now, and this NCO training instructor came right up to my face like that and started roaring, "O'Callaghan, problem?" My little curse.
Yeah, we're curse.
And next thing I just eyes up to heaven, he said, "Are you rolling your eyes at me for?" And I just said, off. I couldn't take any more. No, he broke me now. He did, and he actually reported it and everything after. Like, I got bottling all over, but you just take it on the chin and get on with it again.
It's learning in it for you.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, everything was grand. You were enjoying the army. You were joining. When did things start to become difficult for you?
So I was selected to go overseas in 1998, and I went with the 83rd Infantry Battalion UNIFIL, and I was in the communications section, signal section, so I was signaller private, and I had just turned 21, and a few weeks later anyway, we were getting kind of a night off. And we were told, do you want to go to the next base for a night out and have a few drinks and just to chill and relax? And of course we did. And there was a couple of us girls, and it was a chance for us to kind of get out of our uniform as well and get into shorts and T-shirt. But even though it was called a beach party, it wasn't a case of where you're getting into your bikini or your togs, or the men were getting into their trunks or their shorts. It wasn't that kind of a party. It was just called a beach party for the sake of it.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
Take your time.
Yeah. So we changed out of our uniform. We got into our civilian attire, as they call it. You know, that's their army terms.
Yeah.
And I got into my white top, and I had shorts on, denim shorts and runners, and had a few drinks, tea Maria milk at the time. Oh God, I couldn't. How did I do it? I don't know. And then there was beer as well, Almaza and Heineken, and I had a lot to drink. I had a lot to drink, but I was still having a good time with the girls. And I remember towards the end of the night, then I can't handle drink.
Yeah.
Even to this day, if I was drunk after a night out, I would end up vomiting on the side of the bed at home, you know, or into the toilet bowl. Yeah. But that night in question, I went outside of the bar, I suppose, as you call it, and I started vomiting. And one of the girls came out and saw the condition I was in. But it was near time to go back to base anyway, to our own accommodation. So we mounted the Sisu. So Sisu is an armoured vehicle that carries troops in the back of it. So we got into that. I suppose I was put into it, you know, and I had to be held up, and got back to base. And I was throughout the whole journey back. I suppose it was about a half an hour. Throughout the whole journey back, I was vomiting into my green issue bag. I had clothes, my uniform, and everything in it, and plus the vomit. So, so the girls took me to my room in the Cygnus block in Camp Shamrock, and there was always a problem with the bloody lock that I had, but I was the only one that could just kind of open it. Yeah. But the girls couldn't do it that night, and of course me in the state I was in, I couldn't do it either. So directly across 2 feet, directly across the corridor, 2-3 feet, one of the girls put me into her room and into her bed. And I'm told that I was put to bed fully dressed, and my shoes were my footwear was taken off, and I just went out cold then. I was put on my side and the blankets put over me, and so the girls left me there. They went to their own rooms then, and the girl that I was sharing the room with that night, she gave me her bed, but she had to sleep on the floor, but she decided she was going to phone home. So that's what she did. She went into the bunker, which was just about 7 or 8, 9 feet away. And you go into the bunkers when you come under fire. And there's a phone in there as well, and you're able to phone home. So that's what she did. Now, I don't know how long she was in there. So, so that night in July, sorry.
Take your time.
I woke up to this man on top of me, and taking my shorts off and my underwear, kissing me and raping me. And from the, I describe it as I was having an out-of-body experience. I knew there was something happening, but I couldn't stop it. I knew something wrong was seriously happening. And I always, even to this day, back then, I even described it as if there was an angel. I don't, this probably sounds weird, it's like an angel saying, "Roslyn, wake up, there's something happening." And I couldn't. I was in and out, passing in and out of consciousness, drink, and How long he was there, I don't know. How long was he raping me? I don't know. And I remember the door opening again. I think he went away and came back. I don't know, did he rape me again? But I do remember him saying, Ross, I just want to talk to you. I just want to talk to you. And I said, go away, leave me alone. Just go away and just leave me alone. And I passed out again.
Let's just clarify for some of our listeners that you gave him no indication that there was anything romantic going on at any stage during this period of time.
No. He was a senior NCO. And
What's an NCO?
A non-commissioned officer. He was a senior non-commissioned officer.
What does non-commissioned
So
mean?
you have commissioned who are officers, and then you have non-commissioned who are not officers.
Okay.
And that's, you've got them and you've got us.
Oh, I see. Do you know when you woke up and he was there, did you recognise him? Was it a familiar face or was it too blurry or?
It was blurry, and it was the voice, and it was kind of in and out blurriness. But I suppose getting back to your question, Timmy, is I had no dealings with this person whatsoever. I knew him from working in the camp only. I wouldn't have had any communications with him. I wouldn't have had any, how would I put it, relationship with him, you know. And it was a case of just hello, goodbye, you know. And that was it on my side. But he had other things to say.
How do you think that that he was able to see you in that kind of condition? Was it a case that when you came back to base that you were spotted in that kind of condition, drunk condition?
He was actually in the Sisu with us.
Okay.
On the way to the party and on the way back from the party, but he wasn't in our social scene. So he would have seen clearly the condition I was in the back of the Sisu. And I'm told from reliable girls that he took my green bag away to clean it out. And when he brought it back, he was told that I was asleep in the room and not to go in and to leave the bag on the veranda.
So it was opportunistic on his point.
He saw a target,
Yeah.
and he
Took his chance.
He striked.
Yeah. What was it like when you woke up, when you sobered up?
I woke up between 5:30 and 6:15 the next morning, and
Did you know straight away what was after happening, or did you wake up and then you got a flashback?
Yeah, I sat up in the bed, and I looked around,
And then that hit you.
and I went. I was naked from the bottom half down, and my bra strap was opened, but it was still on with my white top still on. Oh, I'm getting shivers now. And I saw the girl on the ground, and I'm sure I can say her name, Valerie. And I took her big coat and I put it on me, and I went out of the room. My head was spinning, you know, when you're...
Yeah.
And I went over to the room and I got the fucking key to open, like, excuse my language. And I went in and I went, did that happen? Am I imagining this? Was I dreaming this? But I have no clothes on from here down. My bra is opened. And I sat on the bed and I was like, what am I going to do? How am I going to... Could I be pregnant? Do I need the morning after pill? I've done nothing wrong here. And I was saying, was I raped? Did that just happen to me? And that's when I contacted two officers, two captains, and they came to my room and I told them what had happened. And
That was on the same day.
that was on the same morning, yeah. Within minutes of I reporting it, and the female captain said, I know, Raz, you probably don't want to hear this, but what you're after telling me, I can tell you now, from the way you're after describing it, you have been raped. And that's when you go, from that moment on, the lights, I describe it as the lights went out. My soul left my body, and I wasn't this chirpy young 21-year-old, had her whole career in front of her, had opportunities. The lights went out and I became just Roslyn. My soul left my body and I just became numb.
How did the camp feel after that? No, I don't know how much time you had left in the camp before you were actually going to be heading back to Ireland after your mission. But how long more did you have to stay in the same camp together, and what was the environment or the tension?
Yeah, in the camp I had 3 months left of my trip. The environment became very, I'll use the word raw and hostile and divided. Became very divided because, he was going around telling his side of the story and denying everything. And there I am going through trauma, I suppose, and shock. And I had to go through the experience of being forensically tested in Norries in Israel. And that was hard.
When something happens like that in the Irish camp, is it the Lebanese authorities deal with it, or how does that work?
It's our own military police, our own Irish military police, yeah. They had no rape kit in the camp, so it had to be arranged that I be taken to Norries in Israel in the back of a military ambulance to be forensically examined. So I had to keep what was on me, and even before I got into the ambulance, there was military police everywhere up in the outpatients department, looking for statements, and I was in no fit state at that time.
So when you were told the two captains initially, you were believed by that lady?
Yes, I was, yeah.
Were you believed by both captains?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, James.
Did you say anything?
I actually don't know.
Yeah. What about home? Did you ring anybody at home?
So a few days had passed, and sorry.
Tissue there.
A few days had passed, and no one had contacted my parents. So they were waiting for me to do it. So there was no liaison officer had contacted my mum and dad. And my unit in the 4th Infantry Battalion in Collins Barracks didn't even know. And I remember being in a tiny room and there was filing cabinets. And back then in 98 they had the satellite phones, the big chunky ones. I was brought in, I was told, dial the number and ring home. I tell you, lads, that was the hardest, most distressful time telling, explaining. How do you explain to your mum and dad?
Exactly. What kind of reaction?
Sure, God,
are they supposed to have?
I don't know how they reacted, but it must have been devastating for them. And then for me to hang up the phone, and they're just left in limbo.
Yeah, and they can't do nothing.
And my poor mum, and my poor dad, I'm thousands of miles away in another country, and that's it. You have to tell them that your eldest daughter has been raped.
Jesus Christ.
Was there ever any going back to the movies now, where like if there's a crime committed in the defence forces, they have like an internal like process where there's a court martialing and there's a hearing, and is there anything like that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there was, yeah. There was statements taken from witnesses. So a few weeks later, I was informed that this individual was not going to be charged with rape, that there's not enough evidence to suggest that he raped me, forensically or through witness statements, you know. So the morning of the charge, they're called charges. So the morning that he was going to be charged, I had to get into my best uniform, my best kit, and I remember walking across the tarmac in Camp Shamrock and heading towards the battalion commander's office with the female captain. And I was actually anxious and I felt sick, and because I knew he was going to be there. So I remember I really didn't want to go in there, and if I refused to go in there, I would have been charged under some section as well. So I had to gather myself and shaking now with nerves, and I was marched in. And when I stood to attention next to him like this, you know, and I would have been here, and he would have been right here, so we could have touched hands.
Jesus Christ.
No, bearing in mind, lads, that this is the man that raped me.
I know.
And I'm stood. They won't even do it in a court of law anywhere.
It's like the opposite to trauma-informed practice. Like there was no realisation what it must have been like for you. Like
no, and before the colonel asked or went ahead with the charges, starting the charges, he says, I said, "Sir, I need to say something here," and that's kind of something that's not done, you know. And I said, "Sir," I said, "that man," like that. I said, "that man raped me," and he replied, "That's not the issue here, Private O'Callaghan. Do you want a seat to sit down?" So they would have got a seat for me to sit down right next to him, and I said, "No." And have you anything to say? And I said, "That man raped me." He said, "That's not the issue here." And Grandma Shaw left out the door, and I broke down crying into the female officer's arms. And I said, "I just want to go home. I can't do this no more."
Do you know when this happened and afterwards, were you expected to go back working as normal, or did they leave you stay in your room to kind of get yourself together for I don't know. See, did you stay for the extra 3 months after that?
No, I didn't. Once I fell into the female officer's arms, I said, "I want to go home." So you have to go through a repatriation process. But that night, I remember going over to the room, and I was on my own. And at that time, this was a few weeks later. At that time, I didn't have many friends. I could count on one hand how many supported me, and I will never forget those girls and the men as well. There was a few men, but the next day we were told we had to clean our weapons. So I stripped the stire down. I started cleaning it, and then I realised, oh fuck, I have no mechanism in it. So the mechanism is a
Pin.
It's the mechanism. That's what makes the weapon fire. Where the fuck is the mechanism? Like, you know. Anyway, I started panicking, and I went to my company sergeant, and he said to me, "We have that. We were afraid in case you do something to yourself." Huh? Yet they left me travel back home to Ireland on my own.
When you got home to Ireland, was there more of a formal practice to what was after happening, or was that it?
That was it.
That what happened?
That was it. I went back to my unit.
And that was it.
That was it.
It was never spoke about again.
Oh, you get are you all right?
Yeah.
But that was it. It was never talked about.
What if it happened in Ireland, in one of the barracks in Ireland? Do the army still investigate internally, or is the guards brought in?
The guards are brought in now, James.
Back then it was like
Back then it was just military police.
investigating themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So there's a army version of GSOC, which is the Garda Sergeants, the Garda Ombudsman. They investigate externally and independently from the guards. There's something like that now for the army.
Yes, yeah. And it's quite frightening, really, because, my opinion is that I wasn't taken seriously and there was a lot of cover-ups, and I still believe that. And the investigation was flawed from start to finish, and it was just riddled with lies and cover-ups.
Let's go back to the court that you were in the barrack, and when you were told that that's not the issue here. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, what was this judge saying? That's not the issue here. What were you doing in there?
So he wasn't even a judge, Timmy. So he would have been this colonel, a really senior officer. So he would have taken his instructions from, say, the legal officers back home in Ireland and out there in Lebanon.
What was the issue? Why were you actually inside in the...
Yeah, I tell you. Yeah. Good question. He was charged for engaging in sexual conduct. I still remember it. For engaging in sexual conduct, for being in a female's room. And he was fined £175 and given a severe reprimand. Now, severe reprimand is only words. And it's only words on paper. It meant feck all.
Okay. And that was it?
That was it.
Did you ever have any dealings with him afterwards?
No, never. He was removed from camp from the moment I reported him.
Do you know, when you got home and you went back into your company, and was there any support there from you from it's okay to say the army, is it?
Yeah.
So from the army in relation to maybe some counselling or anything to that nature?
To be fair, I suppose it was offered, but I was always of the belief and the opinion that I've done nothing wrong here now. And I'm going to hold my head up high and I'm going to get on with things. You're not going to drive me out of the army. I'm going to show you that I can still soldier. Yeah. But it was very hard. I remember the first day I went out on parade in 4th Battalion and I got pulled because I had the big Overseas Ireland flash on my uniform. And there was some smart comment passed to me and we were dismissed off parade, and I just went into the ladies' toilets and I actually collapsed to the floor. And I think that's when I realised I'm actually in trouble here mentally.
Yeah. And how did you cope?
I suffered in silence, Timmy.
Did you have anybody to speak to?
You couldn't trust anyone. I didn't trust anyone.
Did you drink?
I did. I turned to drink. Yeah, I turned to drink. So when I came home, when I was repatriated, I actually went to the Garda Síochána to report him.
Yeah.
And they came back to me saying nothing could be done because it was outside of the Irish jurisdiction. So nothing could be done to him. But I did, they do have his name. They should have his name, where he's from, and it should be on file. So then I went to my solicitor and she went through the whole legal aspect of things. Brought in a barrister, got legal advice, and at the end of the day it came down to where we could have tried to have taken a court case, but I'd have to come up with thousands and thousands of euros at the time, which I didn't have. And the likeliness of me winning the case was extremely, extremely low.
So all this happened within the first 2 years of your army?
2-3 years, yeah.
So you had another 20 years left in the army?
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a really strong human being to be able to stay.
Do you think? I don't know.
I do think so.
Who drove on, like, do you know what I mean? Who didn't let that time drive you out of the army, you still pursued it.
A lot of people would probably move away because of the constant reminder of seeing maybe that person. Now, as you said, they probably weren't in the environment that you were in, but still you had to kind of look at different kind of people that were
figures
there,
around
and it was bringing up stuff for you consistently.
Absolutely, and it did. I mean, I became so paranoid. You couldn't say boo to me, and I'd end up in an emotional wreck. And like it came down to anxiousness, anxiety, like stress, even to the point, I was so paranoid about myself, the way I looked, the way I dressed. If someone was staring at me, I'm going, is there something wrong? What are you looking at? But they wouldn't be, there'd be no harm in it at all. But I couldn't function anymore. I was just going with the flow. But I suppose getting back to trying to get him through the courts here in Ireland, then is that okay if I go back to that?
Yeah,
Is
of
it?
course,
Yeah.
of course.
So our only way that I could get him to admit some bit of liability, even though he still to this day hasn't, he offered me £10,000 for counselling. Now, lads, if you were innocent boys, you wouldn't be offering up £10,000 back then, would you?
Oh, absolutely not.
But that was without admittance of liability.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took the money because it gave me maybe some bit of closure, or not even closure, but some bit of him admittance by him. If he was an innocent man,
Yeah.
I'm an innocent man.
Yeah,
He wouldn't. He wouldn't.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have handed over that money, and that was a lot of money back then.
Oh, yeah. Jesus, we're talking about pounds.
Yeah. Pounds. Yeah, and I hated taking that money.
Of course, you couldn't.
I hated it.
But it was probably in your own head as well at the same time. You knew that you were never going to get anything else.
Yeah.
Because
I couldn't get any more out of him because apparently he didn't have it.
you were never going to get any more anything else because the case was already after being dealt with. You were never going to get justice in any other way.
No. And my well-being never came into it.
So for the next, so you stayed in the army for another 20 years. Okay, we were chatting beforehand. No, right. You went back overseas 2 more times after that.
I did, yeah.
How difficult was that? Did the army look at you as probably, what's the right word here now, James? As somebody, there could have been an issue because of what happened already. Was that a difficult process for you to go back overseas? Because I know going overseas for a lot of people in the army, it can be financially rewarding for them as well. And I know it's a big deal for a lot of people because it might help them to get a mortgage, it might help them to buy a car or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So what was the process of you getting back overseas after something like that?
Well, out of my stubbornness again, I soldiered on and I wanted to continue on with my career and I wanted to go up the ladder, and but was it too soon to go back overseas? It probably was at the time. Now I can say it probably was, but I went back over and I have no doubt that, the senior officers probably had their doubts as well. And then you had people who, were cautious. I'll use the word cautious, stay away from her. She's trouble. And they, it was lousy really when I think about it at the time. And
sounds very like you were in a really lonely place.
Like I remember in B Company on my second trip overseas, and this male NCO came up, and he was actually drunk, and he says, "I know everything in your personal file, even down to your medical records." And I'm like, "What?" And then I'm like, "I can't open my mouth here now because I'll be seen as a troublemaker again."
Yeah.
But I did. I told someone, and sure, just have to get on with it.
Yeah.
But that's the way you were spoken to as well. But after that trip, then I came home. I did a full trip, and I came home, and that's when everything started to go wrong with me. that's when my mental health started suffering and started going downhill.
What age were you then?
22, 23.
23, and
Yeah.
you're suffering with your mental health.
23, yeah. I attempted suicide.
Okay, and this is probably 98, 99.
It was 99, 2000.
And we didn't have a lot of mental health services back here at that time.
No.
We didn't have very much at all. And if you were suffering with your mental health, you were put into the likes of maybe St. Anne's.
That's right, yeah.
You know, and I've been there myself a few
I've
times.
actually been inside there myself because when I was 13 years of age, I was told that my mum had a child when she was 18. So you're talking 60s,
Yeah.
late 60s, and that child was taken off my mum. She was forced to hand her over. Family reasons back then, shame on the family, church, you know, lads, the whole, you know, those times. But when Michelle turned 21, my mum found her after searching for her, and she was in St. Anne's. Mum never knew that Michelle had special needs when she was born. Yeah, so I know what you're saying about St. Anne's because I've actually been in there. I've seen the locks, I've seen the keys, and I've seen the environment, and I've seen the facilities.
So what did it take for you to get the help you needed with your mental health?
So
at that
Timmy,
stage?
so I attempted suicide. I went to the shop. Back then you could buy loads of paracetamol. Now you're only limited to one packet, I think, yeah. And I must have taken 20, 30 of them. And I was admitted then to COH. It was called Cork Regional Hospital then, wasn't it?
Right.
Yeah. And I was pumped. Yeah. And yeah, not proud.
How did you feel? How did you feel? How low were you?
I was at the darkest moments of my life because I just wanted people to believe me and to know that I was suffering in silence but still trying to function and trying to do my daily tasks, get up and go to work. I had enough. Had everything. I had everything. I had the car, I had the money, I had the job.
You just wanted a way out.
Couldn't hold down a relationship. No one wanted to be bothered with me. You know, I was trouble.
How was your trust their own men as well after something like that happened? Yeah.
Well, you had men that just didn't want to know me. My trust, all I wanted to me was to be loved, to be accepted.
I know that
I was a young
feeling.
girl, you know. I just wanted. I came from Bandon as well, so moving up to the city was you know, just different life altogether.
Different,
like,
isn't it? It's a different
you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the nightclubs and.
Like when you grew up in Bandon was country. Like you
country,
had no estates. It was
like,
country,
yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the old roads back down to Bandon. There was no dual carriageways to Bandon back
No.
Yeah.
Still a good town though.
Yeah.
You know, and good people are still in it
It's
to
in
this
a
day.
beautiful area.
Yeah.
Down around there, you have Kilbritton, you have Clan, Rosscarbery.
Yeah.
Rosscarbery is
No, Inchydoney, Gartstown. Yeah.
So it's a beautiful area.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, with your girlfriends now, how did they receive you, or were they supportive for you? And
Yeah. Two very close friends, yeah. And I'm ashamed to say that when even though I was suffering from PTSD, I didn't know at the time, I shut them all out of my life. And I blame my mental health at the time. And I understand now that was my mental health. And I'm ashamed to say that I blocked them out. I tried to, you know, focus on getting them back in my life. But I'd say they probably just, you know, I don't know. Like,
did you reconnect with them after?
we did a few times, but there hasn't been any contact in years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what, sometimes it can
And
be for the best.
I blame myself there. Yeah.
Do you know, sometimes things like that do happen and you just have to move on.
I know.
You just have to move on. But listen, Today, like you retired from the army after when it was time to retire, and you were on Katie Hannon recently,
Yeah.
and you explained your story. How was that received? How were you both received by the public, and how were you both received by the army and the representatives of the army? How did that go down?
So I'm with the group, the Women of Honour, and I would have been with that group since it was formed a few years ago, but I remained, I suppose, the silent one in the background, and because I just wasn't ready to tell my story. So the time was right, and I went on Katie's Hannon's show a few weeks ago, and I look, lads, I was a nervous wreck. Now it was going to be a time that I was exposing myself to the nation and to the world. You're on RTE, and I was a nervous wreck, but I have to say, and it's been phenomenal, the support that I have received from people I know and from people I don't know. The kindness and the generosity. I've had flowers sent to my home. Beautiful. I've had gifts, chocolates, and just pure kindness.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Because you're starting to. I know you had a difficult time.
Yeah.
Right. But now you're seeing the real beauty in human beings.
Yes.
And I love that too.
Yeah.
Because when people can see themselves in another human being, they start to release the love within them.
Yeah.
And they can feel your pain. And I'm sure a lot of people felt your pain when you were on the television and you were talking about your story, and people felt it. I know I would anyway, and I know James wouldn't, I know Brian would, and that's why that happened.
Yeah, and not only that, but I had people telling me their inner secrets, their most deepest secrets that they told no one. And now they're telling me, and I took great pride in that, because I know the pain that they experienced and probably still are experiencing, because, like I get triggers. I could get triggers every day with the PTSD. I got a trigger yesterday, and I was crying my eyes out all day. For what? But, because I wasn't sleeping properly the last few weeks. And it just got too much for me. But then you have to kind of ground yourself. And
like when you're putting yourself out there and you're talking about such a really delicate story like yours, okay, you're really leaving yourself wide open to everybody's feedback, critical feedback, and positive. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really, you have to mind yourself. Me and James know this better than anybody. You have to really, really mind yourself. And that period of time is really tough.
yeah.
That tough where from when you do this interview, it goes out into the public and you're like, you're wide open.
Yeah, you're like
everything.
Yeah.
So you have to really, really mind everything that's going on for you.
Like for years, I describe it now, I had a wall in front of me. You couldn't break that wall. I was letting no one in. No one. And slowly, through rehab and therapy, I've been in therapy for 4 years with the same therapist, Dr. Emmett Stones, just an outstanding doctor. His patience with me, because there was times and I just didn't want to cooperate with him. I thought, fuck this shit, like, I don't, this is, I go home and go, he knows too much about me now, But he stuck with me and I stuck with him, and, he taught...
it's like peeling the layers of an armour off. It's like just slowly...
Yeah.
See, that armour that we have, we carry that to protect us. And we build that up in years and years and stuff. I know it because of my own story. But in order for us to get well, you have to peel it back. And to peel it back, you have to start to trust people. But you also have to start to accept the shit that's after happening in your life. And you have to start loving yourself and caring for yourself. And you also have to go back to that time where that traumatic event happened to you and mine in my own life, and I have to love that person back then, and you have to be there for him, because
Very
I'm
hard,
sure.
Timmy.
I know it's very hard. I know, but if you, it's obvious that when that happened to you, that was a really difficult period in your life. Okay, that you were not able emotionally for what went on. Okay,
No.
and you weren't able to grieve for yourself at that period of time. So what we do is in therapy is we go back to them periods of time in our life, and we grieve with a therapist, and we process. And instead of hating that human being that we were back then and saying, fuck, you shouldn't let that happen, or whatever, you start to love that person.
Yeah.
You start telling that person, it's okay, I'm here now. This adult is here now to help you, to bring you along, to love you, to care for you, and to have some compassion and empathy for you.
But you get your downsides too, because when I started therapy, I was going home and I remember the nightmares were starting to again, the flashbacks were starting. I'd have nightmares at night, and the rapist would be looking down at me and laughing at me. I could see him laughing at me in the nightmares, you know. I remember even the school collections, driving the car. Now I know we all go into another world, but this was like, I'd just keep driving and I'd forget to collect my child from school. Even though I got into the car to go up to the school to collect her. It was so bad.
It's a story in your head.
Yeah.
You know, you lose complete concentration.
Yeah, it was so bad. And again, I was diagnosed with PTSD, severe PTSD in 2001, but I was never told or treated by the army. So then in 2016, I realised that I actually need help. I can't. Now is the time to actually say, Roslyn, you're not well. You need to speak up, and you need to admit you need help.
So you were diagnosed with PTSD in the army, but they never actually told you?
No, never told or never treated. No, and it's in writing. I had a severe PTSD, and that was diagnosed by a medical psychiatrist, an army psychiatrist. So, and I was sent back overseas after that as well, that diagnosis, where I was repatriated from home, or from Kosovo. Simple reason was I was triggered too many times out there. We were sharing showers with men. There was just a curtain between us. I could get out of the shower and you have a fella going to the toilet and your urinal just right next to you, you know? And the accommodation, I suppose I didn't get on with the female that was in my room either. She probably had, I don't know, I just didn't get on with her. And I got repatriated after a month in Kosovo.
So today in your life, we spoke beforehand, you have kids.
3 beautiful kids.
You have 3 kids, and I'm sure by the time you met your husband and
Mark,
they came into your life, like your life started to change. You started seeing some value in your life. You started to feel maybe love because of the kids and stuff. How did your life change when you met your husband and your kids started to
Mark, when I met Mark, actually it's funny, lads, because it's not funny actually. When myself and Mark started dating, Mark was a sergeant in the army. When we started dating, he was actually warned. He was kind of approached and told, "What are you doing with her? There's trouble, stay away from her." But Mark was a bigger man.
Yeah.
He's a Norrie.
He's a Norrie, he is.
Norrie.
He's from Rathpeacon Road.
He's farmery, man. Not far away from us at all.
Yeah. But I got the Norrie, don't abandon, like. So.
He's a man, I'd say, that likes the countryside.
He actually does. We have 2 dogs. We have a Cocker Spaniel and a Westie, and we go down to the local river.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. Mark would put on the boots and let the little lads off. Oh God, Mark likes it. Yeah, but see, we have all the beaches around us as well. So, yeah. But he's always like he's in Enniscarry now tonight coaching, like so. God, no, he's involved with the GA as well. I was telling James that.
Yeah. He played in a golden era in the pair sheet with John Gardner and Sean Ogg and all the like. So he was
serious team there.
Yeah,
he played with Cork once upon a time as well.
He did,
Cork Rollers.
in 2000, from anyway, I don't know from when, but it finished in 2004.
Do you know, we had a psychiatrist on the podcast before, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. I was telling you about him. He's an expert in PTSD, and his book, The Body Keeps the Score, he writes a lot about victims of sexual violence and rape. And he said that sometimes they can find it very difficult to be intimate and leave themselves vulnerable with men in the future. Did you find that difficult? Or?
Yeah, I suppose, look, I'll be honest and I'll open up, and I hope Mark won't mind me. He won't mind me saying this, but, you know, Mark would have woken up to me shouting and screaming in my sleep. And I suppose it was at a time where I was very insecure. But Mark brought trust back into my life, where I could start trusting again, and having fun again, and to be able to go out into town and smile. Yeah, smile.
You have a big smile.
Yeah, and smile.
Smile.
Yeah, and be happy and be confident in myself. And he used to say, "Fuck them all," you know.
That's a typical Norrie quote.
Isn't it?
Fuck them all.
Yeah, fuck them all.
It's a
He's an awful
typical
man on the
quote,
pitch,
yeah.
though. He hates referees.
Oh, that's wrong. But you know what it's like? It's like, you know, the Roslyn that you wore before the event, that kind of happy, free spirit, smiley, positive outlook. And then when the captain relayed back to you the rape, and then you said you lost that, it sounds like Mark started bringing that back into your life a little bit.
He did, because he loved me, I suppose. Yeah, sure, why wouldn't you?
Exactly.
I know. No, he did. Again, it took a long time to gain trust and friendship, and, you know, like throughout the years, like my moods were, the depression was still there, you know, whereas, oh God, there was times, lads, where I would just get up in the morning for the sake of getting up, okay, and taking the kids to school, and I'd hop back into bed, just sleep, and I get up again before the kids come home from school, and even from Mark coming back from work, you know, so I do go through those periods of highs and lows.
Yeah.
At any point during this, did you ever go to your doctor, and did he ever help you out with maybe medication? Because medication can be very helpful for people as well suffering with depression.
Yeah. Oh, I had to. Got to the point. Yeah, I had to. The panic attacks, the anxiety. I never experienced, like, it was so bad where your heart is just, your mind is taking over, and you have the worst thoughts. And your heart is just racing, and you're trying to. I just went to bed and these cold shivers. Do you ever get these cold shivers through you in bed?
Yeah.
And that's a fight or flight issue as well.
Yeah.
You know, you know, there's something happening, and you're trying to control it, but you need to ground yourself. But yeah.
Do you know what it reminded me of? Do you know, when I was in active addiction, if I was after a big drugs binge or alcohol binge or both for a few days, and then go to sleep after a few days of being up, I'd often get this recurring dream. It's more of a night terror.
Yeah.
Where there's men standing over me in the bed. I can't move. I'm trying to scream, but nothing is coming out. It's the realest thing ever.
That happened to me,
But
yeah.
I can, like, it's not real. You know, you
No,
wake
it's
up
not,
out of
yeah.
it, then you realise, fucking hell,
These,
that was
like,
just a night.
these monsters coming at you.
Yeah.
You know?
By trying to imagine, like if that happened, but it was actually real, that happened. When you wake up, that actually happens, you know, and it's terrifying. Do you know what I mean? And,
It is.
And do you know, you mentioned briefly Women of Honour. Is that a group of women that have had similar experience with yourself?
Yes. So we were a group of women who I suppose exposed to misogyny and sexual abuse, sexual assault, bullying, harassment within our Irish Defence Forces. That's to include the Army, the Naval Service, and the Air Corps.
And do you know, when you spoke up, or even before that, to your knowledge, was the person that raped you responsible for more rapes? Did you ever connect with other girls or women?
Yes, there was a woman connected with me through Facebook a few years ago, to say that she had been assaulted by the same rapist who raped me, and in similar circumstances to my own, very similar to my own. And again, she was sidelined like myself. I put up my hand, but I was sidelined, and so was she. And to this day, I suppose to this day, the response of the Defence Forces and the response of her reporting her assault has been nothing but shameful.
So do you know that man, people has been covering up for him and moving him around?
I can't answer that, James.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I can't answer it, James. I don't know.
I suppose it's just a theory I'm forming in my own head. It's like, it's that there's two women now that don't know each other with the same allegation. Like, at what stage you think it can't be always other people's fault? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At some stage, we have to say, look, maybe this guy is, bad news.
They all knew that he was bad news, but no one would speak up. They're all protecting their own careers as well.
Yeah.
And their own pensions.
And he's probably quite senior. Probably have a lot of senior connections if he's probably in there so long.
Well, he's not serving now.
Okay.
No, he's not serving. I'm 45, 46 next month, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah. And do you know what? James is actually disgusted because Roslyn, when she came in, she thought James was about 46.
Well,
Sorry,
And I got the younger age, and everybody knows that James always tells everybody that he's the younger one. But someone actually says, James, you actually look older than Timmy.
and know what she said to Timmy? She says, you're muscly, but you're small.
Yeah, that was a joke, no, in fairness.
No, it's true.
Fuck. I'm not going to talk. You know you're not getting a hug on me.
Yeah.
So what's life like for you now?
Very good. Yeah. I have 3 kids. I have a husband. I'm a stay-at-home mom. So that's fairly busy. That's a full-time job in itself.
Yeah.
I'm a bloody taxi service to my not to my youngest, but to the other 2. Jesus, and I'm a bank to them as well.
Personal ATM.
Personal ATM, even though they'd have their own money, And if we went to shop the other day now, and I said, Colin, are you going to pay for that? No, you have your own money. But he's 16, Colin's 16, and Cleana's 19. So Cleana's going to second year in UCC. Yeah.
Do you know what I heard? Do you know Revolut? That was invented by teenagers.
I believe it.
I'm telling you because all I get is requests.
Yeah.
Text messages from requests from the kids.
Yeah.
So it was definitely invented by
But you know what
teenagers
they're spending it
so
on
they
then
could
as well.
fleece their mother and fathers.
Yeah.
And guilt trip then.
Oh.
You're getting the guilt trip.
Yeah.
The emotional
I can't keep up with them at all. Yeah. And I have a work ethos. You go out and you work for your money.
Yeah.
You work hard and you enjoy life, then the benefits of having money, So, but Colin works in Shadani Hotel now, so I'm a taxi service in and out and in and out.
We might get an old rate off you, voucher code.
I told him he needs to hand over €20 every Friday morning. I'm still waiting.
he might get us an old corporate rate, Timmy, don't you?
Oh, jeez, yeah.
We talk about that off
We
here.
will, yeah.
But thanks for your time, Roslyn. It was a pleasure
thanks,
speaking
lads.
to you.
Thank you so much.
A pleasure.
And before we finish up, maybe if I just put something to you, like if there was any women or girls listening now that might have had a similar experience but haven't told anybody, or maybe looking for support but don't know where to go, have you any kind of bit of wisdom for them?
I do. You are not alone. Do not feel ashamed. Do not hide your pain, because it will eat away at you. Speak up. Go to someone. There's always someone that listens. There are kind, good, decent people out there. We all have issues. Everybody has issues. Do not be afraid.
Yeah.
Talk to someone. And you will be guided and you will be supported. And no matter how small you might think the issue is or how big the issue is, talk to someone. That's all I can say, lads, because you know, in today's society, women have voices just like men have voices, and we need to be heard.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Thanks, Roslyn.
Thanks, lads.
And we leave the details of some support services in the description of this podcast.
Yes.
Anyway. So thanks a million,
Thanks
Roslyn.
a million.
We'll see
Thank you.
everybody next week.
God bless.